Welcome everyone. We're back with something entirely new, a new show. So we've been thinking about doing things like this, opening up our channel for other people to have a conversation about certain topics. And I have to say, I was hoping that I could get a certain Christian apologist to come on first, since I stole the title of the show from him, basically. Second Opinions, the book in the Bible where you put all your own opinions into the Bible. I thought that was kind of fitting and funny, and even more because this Christian apologist uses it. For this show, I'm joined with our new co-host, and our new co-host is Mubarak. Mubarak, welcome to the show.
Hello everyone, and
Welcome, Barak. Good to see you.
happy to be here, and good to see everyone, and
Yeah.
hoping for a good tune.
Yeah, I made a little joke and said I need Mubarak here because we got two Arabic-speaking people, and I need someone to be there to see whether or not they're not cursing me out on screen or making fun of me, stuff like that. But that's not going to happen. Mubarak is here, and he's going to help us out with moderating if necessary. I'm hoping that's not going to be necessary, but you never know. And he's also helping with the side chat. So if you have a question, tag in me or Mubarak in the side chat, and we'll pull up the question and forward it to the people on the panel. So let's go over and meet our guests for today. We've got Sohel and Ahmed, otherwise known as Finding Truth. Welcome, guys. For the people who don't know you, and I'll this is not for any other reason than we'll go from left to right. So Sohel, do a quick introduction for people who don't know you already.
Thank you. As you see under beside my name in Arabic, I have a channel called Soshoo, and I have also an English version of it. So if you write Soshoo, you will find it. Soshoo English, yeah. But also I have an Arabic channel. I am a graduate of San Diego State University. I graduated with a Bachelor in Arts in History. I graduated with honors. I was planning to go for the PhD, but my health wasn't helping me. I have been living in the US since 10 years. I've published 2 Arabic books and 1 English book. They're available on Amazon. Thank you.
Okay, and people obviously can find you on Aaron Ross' channel in the series Qur'an lessons, where every once in a while you hop on and are part of the panel. Okay, so our second guest is Ahmed, Finding Truth. I think at least the people on our channel would have seen you popping up on several channels already. But for those who do not know you, Ahmed, please do a quick introduction. You're muted. You're muted. You have to unmute first. There you go.
So thank you, Peter. My name is Abd Sattar. I also run a channel called Finding Truth. You can find it on YouTube. It's YouTube.com/C/Finding Truth channel, or just look for Finding Truth. And I'm a communications and electronics engineer. I'm graduated with distinction with honors. I also did my master's courses in engineering. I didn't do my thesis because I was also doing another master's in business. So I have a master's in business administration. I worked, I have like 32 years experience in information systems, managing companies that implement information systems, and also managing information systems at customer sites. I worked for a few transnational companies, and I also did my 4-year studies of Islamic theology and da'wah. So my channel is about religion and science, and topics that will be contentious or apparently contentious between both of them. So finding God through science and philosophy, and then following his path. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, we're glad to have both of you guys on. So we've set on a specific format. Sohel's going to open. That's what I took from everything with a presentation. So That'll be about 10 minutes, and then Ahmed will have about 10 minutes. I'm not going to be that precise. If you go over or short a little bit, that's not a big problem. We want to keep it nice here. So we'll start out with Sohel's presentation. So Sohel, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Peter, please let me know when my 10 minutes end. Just let me know, yeah, and I'll stop.
Will do.
So, yes. So, why I don't believe in Quran as a divine book? I argue for the following. Like, number one, the Quran lacks balagha, or rhetorical eloquence, and it's a human speech like any other human literature. Second, Quran borrowed from other religions, specifically Judaism and Christianity. Number three, Muhammad used Quran for his own pleasure and benefits. So evidence for the number one argument. And example one, Al Imran, verse 144. So it says, وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ أَفَإِنْ مَاتَ أَوْ قُتِلَ انقلبتم على أعقابكم ومن ينقلب على عقبيه فلن يضر الله شيئا, to the end of the verse. Muhammad is no more than a messenger, that the verse says. Other messengers have gone before him. If he were to die or to be killed, would you regress into disbelief? Those who do so will not harm Allah whatsoever, and Allah will reward those who are grateful. So, before I go to example two, and as you see, this verse itself shows you it's a human being writing the verse, because the word afa'in, which means that there are two possibilities, and these two possibilities are either Muhammad would be killed or die. So die or be killed. So if God was talking, he was not going to tell you in two options, because God knows the future. But in this verse, we see God saying he either die or be killed, which shows you that it is a human being expecting that all things are possible. So he don't want to leave any possibility out. Yeah, that shows you the Quran is a human being talking, not God. Example number two, أم حسبتم أن تدخلوا الجنة ولما يعلم الله الذين جاهدوا منكم ويعلم الصابرين. Do you think you will enter paradise without Allah proving which one of you truly struggled for his cause and patiently endured? And as you see, وَلَمَّا يَعْلَمْ Allah here is a problematic word, because it says that God, and do you think that you will go to heaven before God knowing? So the translation usually try to avoid the accurate translation of it. And as you see in the tafsir of Al-Baghawi, he even says, أي ولم يعلم الله. Al-Baghawi in his tafsir, his commentary on the Quran, says it means that God didn't know. The word ولم يعلم means didn't know. And also in Al-Muyassar tafsir issued by King Fahd Complex, it says, this is the verse in Arabic, and here the explanation, Ya Ashab Muhammad, O companions of Muhammad, do you think that you will go heaven? And to the end of the verse. And here it says, the tafsir, وَيَعْلَمُ اللَّهُ عِلْمًا ظَاهِرًا لِلْخَلْقِ, that God wants to know a knowledge that is clear to the people. So they change the meaning by tafsir. When they comment on it, they add the meaning they want. So if you take the verse itself, you can deduce from it that, like something different from what the tafsir is saying. And that's why they need the commentary on the verse. Also, example three, Al-Nahl, and this is I'm using this verse to show you, like, Quran sometimes uses common sense to make it like a big deal. It's something everybody knows. So here, Al-Nahl, verse 8, it says, وَالْخَيْلُ وَالْبِغَالُ وَالْحَمِيرُ لِتَرْكَبُوهَا وَزِينَةً وَيَخْلَقُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. He also created horses, mules, and donkeys for your transportation and adornment, and he creates what you do not know. So Sometimes I joke about this. I say, "Oh, I thought we fly with donkeys and horse. Not they are not created to be to ride them." So this is just like the common knowledge. Yet the Quran uses as a big deal. It's not a big deal. Yeah, it's just common sense. Like if I tell you, you have two eyes to see or two ears to hear. Of course, eyes for seeing. I mean, nothing new about that. Yes. Also, example in Surah An-Nisa, verse 3. Here we see a Quran, like even Quran, they have dropped or forgotten verses. So the text does not make any sense because the original was different and they have changed. So here he says, وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تَقْسِطُوا فِي الْيَتَامَى فَانكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُم مِنَ النِّسَاءِ. So I will not read all of it, but in English it says, so the English is different from the original. When they translate it, they translate the tafsir or the comment. If they translate it verbatimly or word by word, it will not make sense, because here the Quran says that if you were afraid to be just with orphans, go and marry whatever number of women you like, 2, 3, or 4. So many authors and commentaries, they find this problematic. So they say, oh no, it's about orphan women. So how a woman can be an orphan? I mean, when she is adult or old enough to be married. I mean, there is a confusion in the concept here. Yeah, because you cannot have a child and a woman unless you say, it's okay to marry a child in Islam.
Sohel, 2 minutes.
Okay. My other points are for the second argument that Muhammad borrowed from other religions and reasons to believe that Muhammad did here. The biblical text and traditions are as follows. Muhammad had a priest cousin. His name was Waraqa bin Nawfal, and he was able to read Hebrew, and he was very learned in the Bible, in biblical text. And also Muhammad did go to Sham, Syria, and Jordan, that area, Syria and Jordan, trading for his wife Khadija before he married. Third, there were a Christian and Jewish community in Arabia, and Muhammad did meet them, like in the market of Okal. I think that's enough for me. Thank you.
Okay, Ahmed. Not sure if Ahmed is around. Yeah, Ahmed is around.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just thought I would leave the whole screen for Sohel so he would,
Oh, you don't. Yeah, you don't have to turn off the camera. So that's
right.
Okay. You've got 10 seconds too, 10 minutes too. So you can start your rebuttal.
Okay, so the reason we're making this discussion is that I had this discussion with Sohel over the email, and it started from existence of God, and then he's an ex-Muslim. So I said, why is that? So he said, I don't believe in the Quran, and I said, why? So we thought, okay, he will give me what are his reasons, and we'll have this discussion about it. So I think he had 4 topics. He mentioned 2 in his presentation. So I'll address the 2. He went into some details, and I think I can touch on every one of them in the 10 minutes. So the first thing is that he says the Quran is not eloquent enough. So it goes like this. When God sends prophets, he would send prophets to people, and he would typically send them with miracles. And for a miracle to be considered a miracle, it must exceed the maximum potential of the people who are being addressed with the miracle. So Moses has this competition with the magicians, and he beats their magic. Jesus shows all those miracles that no doctor in his time could beat, etc. And the prophet was sent with a miracle that had three features. Number one, it was not a material miracle in the sense that it will be witnessed by some people and by some others they didn't. So we didn't see Moses split the Red Sea into two, and we didn't see him throwing his stick and the stick turning into a snake. It was compelling to the people who saw it, but we just hear the story. So the Quran, because it is something that, because God promises that this is the last prophet, so his miracle needs to be can be witnessed by people in different times. Number two, he chooses this miracle to be a book. The book itself is the miracle, and he challenges the people who have received this book to write or to say a text like it. And the reason is that the Arabs were quite proud of their oral tradition. They were quite proud of their language, and they were quite proud of their poetic capabilities. And it was a way for recording their history, and a way for communicating news, and a way for praising people, and they made these competitions about poetry, etc. So Arabs considered themselves, and essentially the people of Quraysh, because they were the center of this language competition, considered themselves an authority. Nobody can be more eloquent than us. So if I, for example, tell Sohel, I'm going to prove to you I'm a prophet because I know things about, I don't know, quantum mechanics that you do not know, he will tell me, well, I am not a physicist, so I will not know if what you're saying is something that other people know or not. Tell me about something that I can be an authority. So categorically, the Arabs who converted to Islam accepted the Quran as a linguistic miracle. And the Arabic language scholars later still accept it. Obviously, the Muslims today ponder its beauty and eloquence. So this is in the generals. Refuting the Quran as being not eloquent has a criteria in the Quran, or to be unmiraculous has a criteria, which is, okay, produce a book that is like it. And the word like it has many meanings. Maybe we can go through this in the back and forth. I will touch fast on the examples that he said. So Sohail mentioned Ayah 144 in Ala Imran, وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ. And he says, أَفَإِن مَاتَ أَوْ قُتِلَ. The ayah says, if he dies or is killed, are you going to return as disbeliever? And he says, why is God giving two possibilities? Well, of course, God knows the future, but the Quran is not a book for foretelling the future. And you have to understand the context of the ayah. The context of the ayah is that it was describing a battle. And in the battle, somebody shouted, the prophet has been killed, a rumor. And some of the fighters, some of the combatants of the Muslims were set back by that. And they said, okay, the prophet was killed. Why are we still here? And they thought we will go back to Medina to defend it, in the fear of that the infidels would overrun it. So this is the reason of the ayah. It's telling them, the prophet dies or the prophet lives, he will die or he will be killed one day, and this should not set you back. This is the purpose of the ayah. It's not like God does not know which one is going to happen. It is setting the attitude of Muslims that people, even the person of the prophet, if he goes away, Islam will continue. The second example he mentioned is أَمْ حَسِبْتُمْ أَنْ تَدْخُلُوا الْجَنَّةَ وَلَمَّا يَعْلَمِ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا مِنكُمْ. So God's omniscience in the Quran is a given, and God promises that he will not put people into hell or into paradise because he knows. Otherwise, why did he create us? This world that we are living in is so that we are judged according to our actions. We are not going to be judged according to God's. The context here is, it's again about the tribulations that a person who believes will go through. And it says, don't think that just because you say, I am a believer, I'm a Muslim, you will just go to heaven. You will have to go through tribulation. And upon your reaction to those tribulations, it will be written and it will be recorded and it will be known that this is what you have done. It will be known as a fact that has happened, which is the reason that we're here. Otherwise, God wouldn't have created us all together. The next example he gives is about the Quran in Surah An-Nahl, mentioning that the horses and donkeys are for riding and as an ornament. And again, you cannot consider an ayah outside of its context. So the context is God is enumerating his gift. And
2 minutes, Ahmed.
Yeah. And within this enumeration, he is counting the fact that he made those animals created in a way that they accept to be used as a means of transportation. Obviously, horses are quite stronger than humans, but horses, for some reason, accept that humans would ride them and accept that humans would go in a show and, make this trotting with them and make these shows, and you are, proud that you can control the horse. And God is giving us this fact that the horse and the donkey are behaving this way because they have been created this way. It's not because we are so smart in making horses tame. It is because they are created this way. The next thing he mentions is in Surah An-Nisa. And he's talking about the ayah says, if you fear that you will not be just to orphans, female orphans, then you can marry 2 or 3 or 4. And again, it's a matter of context. And the context here is that when a young woman is an orphan, she's still a lady and she is under a custodian's control and she's rich. He's telling him, some people did this. Once she is becoming mature and before she is capable of taking her money, he would start, negotiating with her or putting pressure on her to marry him so that he doesn't lose control over the fortune. So God is giving this instruction, do not do these tricks. If you are a custodian and you have an orphan, she doesn't have a man to protect her, do not play these tricks and try to keep her money by making her your wife. If you want a wife, don't look to that one. Find yourself a wife. Do not use marriage as an excuse to control other people's money. And the last point he mentioned...
Ahmed, time's about up. Can you wrap up quick?
All right. Yeah, the last point he mentioned was about the Qur'an being copied from other books, and he mentioned Waraqa. The Prophet met Waraqa for the first time after he received the revelation, and Waraqa told him, if I am living when you get the revelation, I'll believe in you. And Waraqa died before revelation. And then he said he traveled to Levant and Jordan. Yes, he did. He traveled for one trip for trade. I don't think that was a good opportunity to deliver a 600-page book. And he met Jews and Christians. Yes, he did. And they would have been happy to say, we have told him about the Quran. But I don't think any of them was capable of making this claim, because actually so many things in the Quran oppose the corruptions that are in the Bible. So these are my comments.
Okay, so as agreed, from here we'll go into an open discussion, and we'll probably let our panelists go unless there's going to be an unequal amount of time taken up in responses. But
Peter, do you think? For example, I can answer in 3 minutes, and he can reply in 3 minutes, and so on. So we can enjoy listening to each other.
Yeah, what I don't want to do is completely time people all the time, because sometimes it's not really that useful. But if you just keep in mind that you need the other person to give them the time to reply, then that would be okay. So we won't step in that much. We'll give you the freedom to have the conversation.
Okay. Let me reply to Ahmed, and I will try to be short because I know he will need to reply to me again about the issue of rhetorical eloquence or balagha. I mean, you cannot argue which book or verse is more eloquent than another. The issue of eloquence is a matter of taste. So, for example, if I bring you Shakespeare, and I'm giving this example for Western viewers, Shakespeare or Milton or poets, and we try to decide which one is more eloquent, which one has better language, better eloquence in general. We will disagree, of course, over that. We will have that debate. And there are many professors who are still arguing about this stuff. So Muhammad didn't win his rhetorical eloquence except by sword. Because remember, he stayed in Mecca for over 13 years, yet only 100 something believed. All the other people said, no, he's just repeating what the Arabs called saja. And saja was like oracles. Arab oracles used to use saja. And saja is using a language of prose that is similar to poetry. It's not poetry, but it still has stanza in every sentence. And Quran has stanzas, but they don't call it al-qafiya stanza in Arabic. They call it fasila because they know once they call it stanza, they will be in trouble. Yeah. So they change the meaning into they change the concept into fasila or a separator, which is not true. Al-Quran is full of stanza, just like any poetry. Thank you.
Okay, so let me give you some comments about that. So it is not disputable in the Arabic literature that the people of Quraysh admired the Quran so much. I can quote as much as you would like, and everybody can Google it easily in whatever language. And because they were shocked by the Quran, because they had different categories of text. So there was poetry, and there was what we can say, words for songs, but they're not poetry. Words that would you say, like you're saying, sajda. And there was nath, which is normal text, etc. But they were shocked with the different style of the Quran. It gave something that is stronger than the effect of poetry, but it was not poetry. The Prophet was not a poet. And one of the interesting things is that the Prophet, when he received the message, was 40 years old, and you don't get somebody who never said a verse until he is 40, and then suddenly he is, giving this rain of eloquent text. And the Arabs made these competitions, and they actually did what you were saying. They would compare Shakespeare to somebody else, and they would say, this is the best poetry. And they had mu'allaqat, which are poems that were so good that they wrote them and they put them in the Kaaba. So this meant so much to them. And even the poets of that time, one of the greatest poets of that time, At-Tufail, went to Mecca. He was not from Quraysh, and he told, and the people of Quraysh told him, we're warning you, don't listen to this man, because what he says is like magic. You will listen to him and you will go under his spell. So he put cotton buds so that he wouldn't hear him. And then he was sitting in the Kaaba, and he found the Prophet praying, and while he was praying, he was reciting. And then he talked to himself, and he said, what the hell am I doing? This is not his text. I am a great poet, and I am competent to see and to listen if this was really poetry or magic or worthy text that is a divine revelation. And he removed the cotton, and he started listening, and then he started crying, and then he went to the Prophet and said, I believe you. And this guy went back to his people, and his whole tribe became Muslim because of him. And later on, he brought his full tribe with him to the Prophet. The Prophet was in Medina at that time, so it took him time. And it is not true that the Prophet, the eloquence of the Quran and the teaching of the Quran was not a primary reason that people followed the Prophet. So this is one example. A complete tribe just believes because this guy, and others have also taken.
But don't you think that all these are like stories came to us from Islamic point of view? Like, of course, like Christian apologists who were talking about pagan. Of course, they will try to show themselves having the better argument. Because, for example, if we compare the Quran to Nahj al-Balagha, for example, the book, like the collection of Ali ibn Abi Talib speeches. Nahj al-Balagha is much better than the Quran. It's more beautiful. It has more or better flowing. Like when you read it, you enjoy the language more than the Quran, because the Quran is usually jumps from one topic to another, like just like he did, jumping from orphans. And I'm not talking about commentaries. All what you said about orphans is a commentary on the text. The text itself says nothing about orphans. It jumps from orphans suddenly to say you can marry as many women. So please, when you debate, try to bring the original text, not the commentary, because whenever you add commentary to anything, of course, it will sound logical. But let us stick with the text itself. And that's why Muhammad ended up using the sword, and he said, "أمرت أن أقاتل الناس حتى يقولوا لا إله إلا الله." I was ordered to fight people until they say there is one God and and Muhammad, he's prophet. If he was from God, he wasn't going to use sword. Yes.
Okay, let me comment on that. So you mentioned Nahj al-Balagha, which is a collection of quotations from the Prophet's disciple Ali ibn Abi Talib. And Ali was a very eloquent person. So it's Nahj al-Balagha is, I read plenty of Nahj al-Balagha. I really enjoyed it so much. And it's primarily a collection of his speeches. And then you need to ask yourself this question. Number one, for me, I definitely enjoy the Quran much more. This is a matter of taste, as you say. Maybe somebody will enjoy music rather than the Quran because it doesn't touch. The Quran itself says that it is not mandatory that the Quran will appeal to every person. It says it will only make a disbeliever lose more. وَلَا يَزِيدُ الظَّالِمِينَ إِلَّا خَسَارًا. This is what it says. So it says, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. Don't they contemplate, don't they ponder the Quran, or there are locks on their heart? So the Quran itself says that it is not mandatory that the Quran penetrates your heart and it resonates with you. If you close your heart, if you shut your ears and close your heart, it will not cause the effect. You have to accept, you have to let it do its work. Yet my comment on what you said is that Ali ibn Abi Talib himself, who was one of the most eloquent people of his time after the Prophet, he himself was a Muslim, and he himself was one of the first Muslims. So if he thought that he is more eloquent than the Quran, why did he accept the Quran? So I think this is a self-defeating argument. I would like also to go to the second argument you made about the external comments to the Quran being mandatory to explain the ayah that is talking about the orphans. And essentially, I have to tell you that you are not correct, because if we read the previous ayah or the previous two ayahs, you will find that the flow is exactly what I have explained to you. I don't need to go to any interpretation. So I will just read Surah An-Nisa, the previous two ayahs. So the first ayah says, يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ اتَّقُوا رَبَّكُمُ الَّذِي خَلَقَكُم مِّن نَّفْسٍ وَاحِدَةٍ وَخَلَقَ مِنْهَا زَوْجَهَا وَبَثَّ مِنْهُمَا رِجَالًا كَثِيرًا وَنِسَاءً. O people, and I'm translating while I'm going, okay? So, O people, be pious to your Lord, who has created you from one soul or from one nafs and created its spouse from it, and spread many people, many men and many women, many men and women from it. And be pious towards Allah, whom you would plead to each other with, and with your relation. Allah is indeed most wise. Allah is indeed watchful over you. And then he says this. So he starts by drawing their attention that he has created man and woman from a single nafs, from a single soul, from a single person. And then he says this, وَآتُوا الْيَتَامَ أَمْوَالَهُم, and give the orphans their money. وَلَا تَتَبَدَّلُوا الْخَبِيثَ بِالطَّيِّبِ. And he's not talking about women yet.
My friend is jumping from Adam and Eve suddenly to talk about orphans. Isn't that jumping itself?
It's not, because it's telling you, you are all created from God. You all get back to the same man and woman, so you are all related. So don't be unjust to each other. Don't eat each other money. Give the people their money that is their dues. And because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and because justice system would generally start by protecting the weak, he starts by protecting the weakest. So the one that you can take his money.
Okay. How do you protect the weak? By, for example, if you have an orphan, then you talk about marriage. I mean, what they have to do with each other. Because in Islam, a man can marry a girl who is 9. I mean, she's typically a child. Okay, how that would be just? Okay, like the verse itself is just a chaotic chaos. And that's why you see in Islamic countries, they all live in chaos because they follow these verses. They don't have any legal system. They don't have any concept of like what is an adult person, what makes a child a child. You guys don't have even the definitions for these things. For example, the English translation I use, you saw, it says orphan women. I mean, come on, orphan and women. I mean, a woman is an old, adult person. Yet the Quran says orphan, which is a contradiction. So can you define a woman here? I mean, that's why I see the Quran as a big problem. Yeah, because we don't have definitions for anything of it. It's just general talk.
So I would like to go through the flow, because one of the nice things about the Quran actually is that it is like somebody who's talking to you. So for example, when I read this ayah, you start popping up questions. And the nice thing about the Quran, one thing that is astonishing to me, is that when I am reading and questions are popping in my mind because of one ayah, I'm usually surprised that the answer to my question would come soon enough in the following ayahs, not far from what I'm reading. So I'm going to use exactly what you said to give an example to that. And we haven't arranged this. I'm just going with the flow. So it starts by telling you that everybody, men and women, go back to the same parents. So we're all related, and we should be just to each other, because he warns you that Allah is watchful over you. So he's giving a warning. And then the first thing that he is watchful of our behavior is our behavior towards the weak. And it gets more grave when you have control over somebody who is weak and you are his custodian.
Can you define again? Can you define what makes someone a woman and what makes a female a child? Okay, can you define that?
I can, but I want to address your point, and then I can address that too, no problem. Because I'm making a point about the eloquence of the Quran. You are asking a question about jurisprudence, which I'm happy to answer. So it says the next thing, God is watchful, and says, give the orphans their money. Now, it's not making a distinction between man and woman. It says, give the orphans their money, and do not exchange, and do not exchange the bad for the good. Do not throw away the bad and take the good and take the bad. And do not eat their money into yours. This is surely great injustice. And then he addresses something that is typical in the environment.
Is that the same surah? Is it the same surah?
We are in the same surah. I finished ayah number 1, now ayah number 2, and now ayah number 3 that you mentioned.
Okay.
And then he says, وَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا تُقْسِطُوا فِي الْيَتَامَى, the one that you mentioned. So it's coming, the flow is very obvious. If you fear, because what is somebody will, plea innocent. I'm so innocent. I just like her. I want to marry her. But his real intention is she's weak. She doesn't have a father. She doesn't have somebody who's protecting her.
But you know that women don't have a say in marriage, because once her father if he saw a man to be worthy, even if she's still a child, like Abu Bakr did. He married his daughter Aisha to Muhammad, and she was only 9 years. So, okay, that's even worse than orphan. I mean, she's just a child. I mean, she's not even, that's why I'm telling you, Quran does not make any legal protection for women here, or orphan, or anything. Yeah, nothing of that. It's just a general talk.
I would just like to continue. So
go ahead. I cannot hear you.
Ahmed, your sound cut out. In the middle of your sentence, your sound cut out. So I have no clue what happened there. No, we can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Yeah, still can't.
So could be a glitch in StreamYard. Try and refresh the StreamYard screen and come back.
The mic sign is on, but
it's not the mute button. So
okay.
Just refresh the screen and come. Yeah, okay. So we had a few questions from the side chat already. So I'll address these real quick. Boomer, you said, how did you get past the problem of no gods existing? Or is that supposed to be, and I think that needs to be a given. I think that is something that you granted Ahmed before the discussion, that's not going to be an issue. Sohel, can you talk about that?
Can you repeat the question, please? I'm sorry.
How did they get past the problem? Because the topic is the Quran divine or not? and he said,
Yeah,
how did you get past the problem of no gods existing? So I'm thinking that is something that you granted Ahmed before the debate, so you're not going to address that particular issue. And Ahmed,
like maybe we can have the another debate with theological issues, but I wanted, like we agreed on talking about the Quran itself as a book. Because theological issues are, even the whole matter of God existence is, sometimes I see it as a wasting of time, because always each side finds some reason to believe. People like believers, they have psychological reasons to believe. They don't wait for evidence when it comes to that. But when we deal with a book like the Quran, we are dealing with like something physical. We can touch.
Yep.
We can talk about it. We can go to history, the law, and compare cultures and text, which is, I think, more helpful for our research and debate. Yeah.
Okay, and the next one was a question from Maggie. Mubarak, can you elaborate a bit on I think you and Maggie know each other, so you might know what she meant by that question.
Yeah. The question is, what did the Arabs say about the Quran? In particular, what they referred to, especially in the context of the Quran and in the context of what did they say exactly about it. Ahmed kind of gave the answer that the Muslims, or the Muslim gives in general, that they were astonished a bit, yet the Quran itself says something else that they didn't believe, and they called it poetry. And I wanted Ahmed to respond to that. I think that's the question is more direct to him, because neither me or Sohel believe in the Quran. So
Mubarak, you can even say that the Quran itself says that the polytheists said that this is a repetition of ancient mythology. So another Ibn al-Harith, for example, who was an Arab Qurayshi nobleman, he said, I have heard Muhammad's stories from other religions, because this man used to go to Iraq, Persia, like the Persian Empire, the Roman Empire. Yeah, so not all of Arabs.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
yes,
We can hear you. Wonders of technology always gives you grief.
I just got out and got in again, so okay.
Yeah, sound is back now. We were just addressing a few questions that we had in the chat. I don't think so. I'll repeat those because you obviously missed them. One of the questions was from Boomer U, and he said, "How did you get past the problem of no gods existing?" And or is that supposed to be a given? And I took it, at least from the title of the debate, that that was a question that you weren't going to address, but just were going to straight to addressing whether or not the Quran is divine. And for the sake of argument, Sohel would grant you at least that you could think that a God does exist, but it's not part of the overall discussion. And then the other one, you want to respond to that, Ahmed?
Well, I'm glad to make a complete conversation about that point, but in the context of this one, I would like to know that some people accept that God exists and that Islam is his religion and that the Quran is his book, all in one shot, due to recite the Quran. So the Quran on its own can be used as evidence for God. And one of the main reasons of God sending it and calling it or labeling it a miracle is that it can perform this function if you let it do the function. He also promises that if you close your eyes and heart, it will not do that, because humans have a great ability to accept or not accept evidence, even if it's here.
Ahmad, don't you think that this is a repetition of the Christian theology? The Christians tell me the same thing. If you open your heart and your mind to Jesus, then you will find the truth. I mean, that's self-serving evidence. I can even use my own book to say, if you use your heart and your mind, you will come to my truth.
Yeah, in I think in Christianity, and I think it's the same in the Quran. It's where the book claims to be the word of God, and therefore it's evidence. So, but I don't want to stick too long on this question, because I don't think it is something that we need to go into during this conversation. I'd be more than happy to set up a second one where we can address that specific point. And the second one, Mubarak, can you do the second one again? The question that Maggie had.
Yes, the second one that Maggie said, that what did the Arabs say about the Quran? So what did they say about it when they heard about it?
So it's a good question. I was explaining that in my previous comment. So the Arabs said many things about the Quran. So many of them said it's like magic, because they saw their comrades listen to the Quran and become Muslim, and since they rejected, they wouldn't, the heads of the infidels, they wouldn't want to confess that the reason is that those guys were touched by the fact that the Quran is God's word, that is meant to be a miracle. They said it's magic. So some of them said it's magic. Some of them says it is telling us the legends of the old, because the Quran said some of the stories of the prophets and of ancient people who went extinct because they disobeyed. And all of these criticisms to the Quran and other criticisms were recorded in the Quran itself. The Quran itself records that they said about the Quran it's asatir al-awwalin, meaning it is the legends of old, that they called the prophet a sha'ir, a poet, that they called him sahir, a magician, etc. But none of the Arabs, because the Quran recorded all of this.
Ahmed, just sorry to interrupt, Ahmed, but isn't that all coming from Quran itself, right?
And your sound is gone
Now
again.
we lost
Ahmed.
the sound again.
No, Ahmed, we can't hear you.
Ahmed.
Your sound is gone again. So I have no clue. It might be that something in your computer is switching out your microphones. I'm not entirely sure what is going on. No, now you have to unmute too, because you're also already.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm logging on also from my mobile, so I'm using two devices so that you can hear me. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you
No
good
problem.
with what you're hearing?
Yeah. No
Yeah.
problem. It's working.
All right. So,
Yeah.
Great idea.
so we fixed the problem with a stunt.
Yes.
The wonder of technology. Here you go.
Yeah. So it would be a shame that I'm an electronics engineer. I cannot fix it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So yeah. So there are two sources. Okay. That we have. The text, the narrations about the stories, about people who lived the event and became Muslims later, and they said the story, and we have what is recorded in the Quran. We don't have a third. So anything else outside those two sources, we just speculation. So the two sources say this is what those people say, and the Quran records it, so it doesn't deny it. It says they call the prophet a poet, they call him a magician, they call him a liar, they call him and that, and he responds. They say he records that some people said exactly what you said, that some people said he is copying from others, and by that they mean Christian or Jewish theologians. And he responds to that too. He says those whom you are referring to are not Arabic speakers, because they meant a specific person. He says things that respond to the matter of the Quran having quotations from the Torah or the Gospel, and actually the Quran corrects many of the Torah and the Gospel text. So nobody.
But Ahmed, how can you claim that the Quran promised that Muhammad is coming, yet the Gospels promise Muhammad coming and the Torah, but the Jews and the Christians change them? So I mean that makes the Quranic argument even weaker, because God wasn't able even to keep His word, the Torah and the Gospel, and they changed it. So it's possible with the Quran too, right?
Can you elaborate on what you mean?
Yeah, like for example, the Quran claims that the Gospel and the Torah, that they have promised the Jews and the Christians that Muhammad is coming as the final prophet. Yet the Quran itself says that the Jews and the Christians, they have changed the text. So they removed Muhammad's name from the copies they have or they recite. So if God is not able to protect his own book, if the Torah, his own book, was changed, the gospel became gospels, and they have changed. So why should we trust the Quran? The Quran is just another book like any. And that's my argument, and that's why the proof of evidence, the proof of evidence lies on your shoulders, not on mine. I simply say any book on earth, all the books on earth are human-made, but you are telling me about a divine book, and I'm not convinced of your evidence. Yeah, can you tell me like why the Torah and the Gospel were changed? Why God didn't protect them?
Okay, so you mentioned 2 points. I'm going to respond to both of them if you give me the opportunity of that. So, number one, you can only ask God or expect God to fulfill a promise that He has actually given. So, He does make a promise, a clear promise in the Quran that He is going to preserve it. And guess what? He did.
That's what you say.
There are millions of people today who memorize the Quran cover to cover. There have been billions of people, maybe millions, I'm not sure, hundreds of millions, who have memorized the Quran cover to cover since the Prophet.
You mean Uthman's copy, right? Uthman's copy.
Yeah, Othman's copy, which has been created through a very intricate process, written down. Yet the writing of the Quran immaterial because the Quran is an oral tradition. And if you go into any masjid today, in any country in the world, 1400 years after the Prophet has died, and the Imam is standing there and reciting the Quran, and there is a significant crowd behind him, and he makes one mistake in one letter or one punctuation, you will find maybe tens of behind him correct if you are in
doesn't make sense. Why? Do you know why? Because that's really happened in Lebanon, for example. A sheikh was reading Ihdina az-Zirat al-Mustaqim, which is one of the readings, the qira'at or the different readings of Quran, and people were angry with him even though he was reading from an accepted reading. They told him, oh, you are just following the Rafidah, the Shi'i tradition. So the common people don't agree even with the readings. If you read a different readings from the copy we have, like printed by the Saudi or Iranian government, people will get mad, even though these are accepted readings in the tradition.
Okay, so I'm just afraid you're raising so many questions that will make the audience confused. I'm happy to answer any question.
No, I mean, that's why I believe that the Quran is not a miracle, okay? Because there is no such a thing as a rhetorical miracle. No such a thing, yeah.
Take this, one final branch to this because I've heard it a few times, and then I just want to answer the two issues you pointed out.
Go ahead.
So the Quran is, when I'm talking about, I'm telling you there is a significant crowd behind who will correct him. Now, if the Imam chooses to recite using a specific tongue that is uncommon to people, I think he is doing something that is not very good. But let me first explain the foundation of this to people. So you have the English language, for example, and let's assume a prophet comes to the island of Britain, okay? And you have Scottish people, you have English people, and you have people in Wales. And let's say he receives a book that is in English. And let's say that people across the island are talking English with very obvious differences in dialect, okay? And this prophet comes in London and he delivers the book to them in the tongue of the people of London, which is maybe more common to people inside and outside of Britain, but which is kind of difficult for people in Wales, Scotland, who speak English, not who speak Scottish. And then the prophet teaches the people who are living in London the words in their tongue, and people from Scotland and people from Wales also believe in the prophet, and they want to read the Quran in their tongue, and God reveals to him what is acceptable in their tongue and what is not. So the Quran was revealed to Prophet Muhammad, who was in Quraysh. Quraysh had a specific tongue which was intermediate. It's nice, it's acceptable. It's like Egyptian tongues known to the Arabs. But people from Morocco, from Qatar will have a little difficulty. But maybe all of them will understand Egyptian or Lebanese. So the Prophet then teaches his disciple who have slightly different Arabic tongue how to read the Quran in their tongue. So the people of Quraysh read as-Sirat, people in other tribes read az-zirat because this is how their tongue. This is not an issue about the Quran. And if I am somebody who lives in Egypt, I learn the Quran in the tongue that is more prevalent in Egypt. If I am not a Quranic scholar, so for fun or for scholarship or for extra understanding of the Quran, I don't read the other 10 ways of reciting the Quran in different tongues, then if somebody reads in a tongue that I'm not used to, I will not recognize. Maybe I think that he is mistaken. So this is a completely different issue. Now, I would like to go back to the main issue putting forward, which is the matter of why the other books were not preserved. So Allah promised He is going to preserve the book. This is manifested today that we have one written text that is accepted by everybody. We can go through the historical process, how this text arrived to be written in this specific font, in this specific way, with this specific punctuation. But it is a fact on the ground that even Shiites and Sunnis, everybody is the Quran. And if you recite it in the common tongue in that specific country and you make a mistake, people will tell you made a mistake. If after the prayer you said, but this is not a mistake because I am reading in that other tongue and there is a scholar behind it, you'll say he's writing in that other tongue. So we have a Quran that is preserved and God promised that it's going to speak.
Okay.
Let me just continue this argument because I will branch in another. God did not promise the Jews that He is going to preserve the Torah, and He did not promise Jesus that He is going to preserve the Gospel.
But the Torah says so.
To David that He's going to preserve Saul.
The Torah says so. It's even Jesus says that nothing will change. Like the world will be destroyed before a word in the tradition, like the Torah had been. So how you argue with that?
So let me argue with. So, but I need to complete the argument because if you cut me in the middle, it will not be.
Yes, go ahead. Finish, and then I'll.
In the Quran, God says that He has entrusted the rabbi with His book. He's referring to the Torah and to the Jewish tradition, and He also says that they have. And actually, Jesus was a rabbi. They called him rabbi. He was actually a rabbi, and the revelation that he received, like the revelation that David and Daniel and Isaiah and every one of them follows the same thing. I don't think it is secret that the Aramaic original of the gospel itself does not exist. We only have the Greek, and then the Latin, and then the other language. So here we have, even if there is a sentence that can be interpreted in the Bible one way or the other, that Jesus says that whatever is not going to be changed, obviously it got changed because, like you were reciting Quran, when you go to translations, if I translate one ayah and you translate one ayah, now it depends on your understanding.
Ahmed, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
to let me continue.
Yeah, you're proving my point. I mean, you already showed. Yes.
Just let me. Okay, so we have to state a statement in the Quran saying that God has entrusted the rabbis, scholars of the Jewish tradition with their book, and that they have changed it. And we have evidence on the ground change. The gospel is completely lost and then rewritten for copies and other gospels and then translated, and so many differences between translations. And we have a statement in the Quran that God is not going to keep it entrusted to the people for the Quran, and He is going to preserve it, obviously through causality, through the people also, but nobody is going to be able to change it, and nobody was able to change it. So this is the answer to the first question. Now the answer to the second question, which comes concomitant to that one, it's important to see it together, is that God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He, before Prophet Muhammad, He sends one prophet, He sends Moses. Moses dies, people try to make changes, so He sends another prophet, Yosha, for example. And then after Yosha, the other one, and the other one, and the other one. And
Ahmed, let me interrupt. Okay, so sorry.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this is a long story. Okay, if we go over story, like each story and another.
I don't want to go to the long story. I want to say that there was a continuum of prophets. So if people made a change, a prophet comes and tells them, this is not acceptable, this is a change, I'm not going to authorize.
That's my problem with the Quran, because remember, Quran itself has nasikh wa mansukh, which is a text counseling another text, or a rule counseling another rule in Quran itself. Like many verses of mercy and being kind, they will tell you they are all being cancelled out by another verse in Surah Al-Anfal, for example, and many other topics. They say, oh, this verse has been cancelled. So imagine if Muhammad, like, just because he moved from Mecca to Medina, he came up with a totally new, new law or different law. So the difference between us and Muhammad's age is so vast and so big that we should cancel the whole Quran out. I mean, the Quran belongs to the desert. I mean, I don't see it even useful for the Stone Age, let alone for our modern time. I mean, okay, it's failed as a rhetorical book because, as you know, we lost most of the original Arab poetry, and Quran itself says that poetry is bad, and the poets are bad, except for, of course, a few who served the Islamic dawah. So, yeah, my problem with the Quran is that it belongs to the desert. It does not work anymore. It's just a bunch of claims, generalizations. For example, the Quran will tell you that the Jews worship Uzair, for example. So why you put the whole Jews in one basket? Or they tell you, or the people of the book do such and such. Or it will tell you the people who, the polytheists, إنما المشركون نجس. The polytheists are dirty, okay, unclean. So, and we know the polytheists were very clean people. They were using perfume, and they were famous with, many of them were famous for cleanliness. So, okay, how can you consider a human being to be a dirty just because he has a different point of view? And that's my problem with the Quran. It's not useful anymore. It's just archaic. Yes.
Okay, so just to wrap up the 2 points, why the first books were not preserved. God did not promise they were preserved. He said that they were not, and if they are not today, then it is a matter of fact that you cannot ask God why he didn't, because it says so. He did something different. He sent prophet after prophet to correct the course, and when
but that's why the Jews didn't believe in Muhammad, right? Because they have the
they
wrong
don't believe.
right?
So what happened is that John the Baptist gets murdered, Zacharias gets murdered, and then Jesus is an attempt to murder him, according to Islam, and many attempts to kill the prophet. So at a point of time, sending prophet after prophet, and the last one was Jesus. And then the changing in the text continues. And then God sends a final message that says, this is the final message. Now, if this final message...
Why at that time? Was there an internet invented and God wanted just to, okay, we need to stop here and this is the last prophet because something big happened. I mean, okay, what's the cultural difference in Muhammad's time? I don't see any reason.
Okay, so would you like me to answer the questions you said first or this one?
It's up to you, yeah.
So let me tell you this. So I'll start with this. It's an important. So what happens that God was sending, there is an ayah in the Quran that says that every community on the face of the earth, God has sent a prophet at one point of time.
And that's not true historically.
No, then maybe we do not know their name, but this is something that God puts. So it is not subject to our knowledge. You may say, I don't know what was the name of the prophet that was sent to the indigenous Australian, but God is telling us that every community of people has received a prophet, a message through a prophet, and that the community so this prophet dies and the people after him change the message, and many years and many millennia passed or many centuries passed, and there are people who did not receive a prophet. He is not going to torture them. He's not going to hold them accountable.
So Muhammad did the same. I mean, okay, where is his message? The Shia and the Sunni are fighting over his heritage, okay? They killing each other over that.
So this is later in the historical process. So now there is this one people who are the Israelites they are mentioned in their books and they're mentioned in the Quran as an example, nations that has received not only one prophet, but so many prophets. And they were entrusted by spreading God's message in their vicinity. And then at a point of time, God sends this message that is now going to that is sent at a specific point in time in the historical maturity of the time.
I don't see where are you trying to go? I mean, it's just you are just telling me what the Quran says so far.
I'm answering the question. What is the difference between the message of Islam and the others? Is that God decided to saying, was there an internet? No, there was no internet.
Yes.
But there are specific rules that are set that people, for example, who are Christian and they are in Europe, and they did not yet receive the message of Islam, they will be held accountable against their book, against
So
their
yeah,
religion.
yeah. What is the message of Islam? Okay, Islam didn't come up with anything new. I mean, everything Muhammad said was a repetition of what the Jews already said, what the Christians already said, and what the Qurayshi and Arabs said. For example, when you go to Hajj and you kiss the black stone, that's a polytheistic ritual, and you still do it, and it's still. So Quran didn't come up with anything new. I mean, okay, what's new about the Quran? The Quran, for example, tells us about the one God, monotheism, which is Jewish. It tells us about Allah, given from God, which is Jewish. It tells us about Hud and Saleh, like prophets, Arab prophets, and that is Arab tradition. But it mentions nothing of Hinduism, Confucianism, Taoism, and because Muhammad simply didn't know about these people. Like Muhammad and the Quran reflect the culture itself. It's just a reflection and a product of the culture of the time. Yeah, you are not able so far to show me any evidence that the Quran is divine. Nothing, zero.
Okay, so the title of our discussion is not to show you that the Quran is divine, but to respond to the reason that you thought is not. So we're going the other way around.
No.
You can make
The argument would go other ways because, okay, I claim that all the books on earth, or all book, any book, just tell me any title, and I will tell you, oh, it's written by a human hand. Even the Quran was written by a human hand, right? Like even the oldest versions of Quran you have, written by a human hand. It's not written by a miraculous printer from heaven. It's human handwriting. And that's why the burden of evidence is on you, not on me. I'm saying all the books are human made. You are saying I have a divine book. Okay, show me the divine book. Go ahead.
Okay, so you want to switch it now from you mentioning specific reasons.
Ahmed,
you
hold
do
on.
not
Ahmed, hold on. I also want to interject real quick because we did go with the title of the stream being "Is the Quran divine?" So the question I think that Sohel asked that was relevant. We're also coming up to an hour and a half, so I will like to get in a few questions from the chat as well. But I'll give you time to respond now because just wanted to clarify this. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the format we agreed upon is that Sohail has specific few points that from his point of view, he thinks because of them, the Quran is not divine. He was going to present them and I'm going to respond.
Correct.
But if he's asking me why I think the Quran is divine, which I can also answer, it needs to have some time because this was not part of his question's open statement. Yet to me, the Quran is divine for many reasons, and I think it is worth of having a dialogue of its own. So number one, the Quran is divine. Now, to me, this is my personal experience. I cannot because this is a personal question.
That's
So
awesome.
let me tell you this. To me, the Quran is divine for many reasons, and those reasons to me are related to my background. But since I am a person who has few backgrounds rather than one, I can tell you that some of the backgrounds that I will say will be common denominators with other kinds. So as a person who speaks the Arabic language, this, for example, might be not a good reason for somebody who does not speak the Arabic language, okay? As a person who speaks the Arabic language and who is, I would say, higher than average, learn what structure of the Arabic language, the Quran strikes me to be not human-made. Strikes me, maybe you don't agree, but it strikes me to be not human. It is not like poetry, and I've studied Arabic poetry. It is not like normal text, and it is not like saga. It is different.
Muhammad did copy from Arabic poetry.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, we can't there are enough evidence that he copied some from Arab poetry.
So this is the first reason for me. The second reason is that because I'm not I'm not a scholar of Jewish scripture. I cannot claim to be so. I'm not a scholar of the Hindu scripture. But for example, I have read the Gospel. I've read Mark. for example, and I have read some of the Torah, and it strikes me that there are verses in the Torah, in Psalm, and in the Gospel that are clear to me to be prophecies for the prophet and for the book. I can give you an example if you would like. So I'll give you this 30-second example. Peter, I would like to share my screen, please, if you would. So yeah, so I'll share screen here, and let's hope that this works fine. So you mentioned in your previous question that those books, how come the Quran says ask people to find evidence in these books while these books are not reserved, because the Quran knows that what he wants them to look up in these books is still. So I'm showing you, for example, the international version, English translation of the Bible. This is Isaiah 40, and it is an interesting verse. And I would like the audience to do this exercise on their own. And I can, whoever would like even to drop me an email or something, maybe Peter can put the email and ask me for more of those verses I can provide.
Sure.
But he says this, he is my servant who uphold. And the word whom I uphold, by the way, I would like to go and see how whom I uphold is written in Hebrew, and see how the word Ahmed, which is the name of the prophet in Hebrew, and it will strike them. So I'm claiming that whom I uphold was at a point of time, here is my servant Ahmed. They might check it for themselves. But this is not only what I would like to say here. He says, my chosen one in whom I delight. I will put my spirit on him, and he will bring justice to the nation. And when they go further, they will find that this is a prophet that is not going to send to the Israelites, because he will say here, I will give you and will make you to be a covenant for the people and a light for the Gentiles. And Gentiles are the non-Jewish people. So this is a prophet who is prophesied in the Bible, who is going not only to be a prophecy for the Jews, but also for the Gentiles. And then they would rather contemplate us. But the nice thing here, it says this here, let the desert, okay, because you didn't like it's coming from the desert, right? It says, let the desert and its town raise their voices. Let the settlements where Kedar lives rejoice. And Kedar is, by the way, the name of great-great-grandfather of Prophet Muhammad. He is one of the descendants of Ishmael, Ismail in Arabic. Let the settlements where Kedar lives rejoice. Let the people of Sila is the name of mountain Salah in Arabic, sing for joy. Let them shout from the mountaintop. And they can read the rest. And this is not the only place where great description of Prophet Muhammad is made. You can find it in the Torah, you can find it in Psalms, you can find it in the Gospel. We do not have that much time, but even if Peter would like to host something, I am happy even to have a Christian with me or Jew, where we can contemplate on what those verses mean. So this is the second reason. There is the same.
Ahmed,
Yeah.
I wanted to do this at the end of the show. First of all, my compliments that this went by so cordial that Mubarak and I didn't have to do anything apart from filling some dead air when we had some sound issues. So that's kudos to both of you for keeping it cordial and keeping it a nice conversation. So my compliments. I've seen a lot worse. So I'm great it happened this way. I also wanted to invite both of you to come on our channel for a completely different chat. I'd like to have Sohel on his experiences coming out of religion, and Ahmed, I'd love to have you on. Sure. Talking about what you believe and why you believe it. And we do have former Christians as our co-hosts. One of our co-hosts is well versed in the Bible, so when it comes to verses.
For some reason, your voice cut off just when you said why you wanted.
Okay.
So for that.
No problem. So our usual shows when we have theists on is there's only one question for the first show, and that is, what do you believe and why do you believe it? And so that would be an excellent opportunity to even bring up Christian verses, because most of my co-hosts are former Christians. I have one who's really well versed in the Bible. So if you want to bring up any verses from the Bible, she can respond to those and can tell you what the Christian view is, at least coming from a fundamentalist Baptist standpoint.
do I have time to respond to Ahmed?
Yeah, sure.
I'll tell you without explanation the other reasons, just as title. Okay. So number one, the language, the beauty of the language and the eloquence of the language to me. Number two, the many prophecies in other religions, including the Hindu religion. Number three, the scientific accuracy. Number four, because I'm a businessman, I'm a business executive. For 20 years, I have been in CEO and CIO level. The magnificence of the legal structure of how to conduct business, commerce, and monetary and financial relations according to the Qur'an. And number four, because I studied Islamic jurisprudence, this encyclopedia that is written in so few words, the laws of inheritance, giving all kinds of permutations, just in a 2-3 page, huge concentration of meaning, and finally
I think the opposite.
it's a big discussion. Finally, making specific profit that were fulfilled, and those together, those to me, okay. I know people who are physicians, doctors, who see great meaning related to their medical practice. People who are biologists, people who are physicists, people who are linguists, etc. But those to me, those five: the language, the prophecies, the legal structure, financial structure.
Because of Quran, believe me, we cannot have this conversation in an Islamic country, because some of us will get killed, and maybe even they will accuse you of sitting with infidels and apostates because you're having this conversation, man. I mean, this is one of the biggest problems. I mean, okay, as a person, maybe you are an open-minded, you accept other people to be different. Okay, that's your personal faith. That's the way you see it. But I'm talking about the general view of Muslims, that we even cannot have this conversation. Okay, if Quran was truly a miracle, as they say, as you stated, a miracle of eloquence, why people cannot even try to imitate it? A girl in Morocco was put in jail just because she imitated the Quranic verses in funny ways. So they put her in jail, and she's lucky that she wasn't executed. So Islam from the beginning and until now has this way of doing it, and that is like if I have a miracle and a miracle of literature, why I need a sword with it? Why I need to be a dictator, a tyrant, in order to protect this miracle? But because it's not a miracle, and the funny part is Arabic is spoken by 4% of the human population, 4% only. So how a smart God can do that? Why he didn't give Muhammad at least a surah in English and tell him, okay, this will be in the future, and that will be your evidence for the universal language that's coming. But that didn't happen because Muhammad didn't know even what will happen tomorrow. Okay, last example why Muhammad didn't know the future. The Quran says, Wallahu ya'asimuka minan. God protects you from people, on Muhammad. Yeah, this tells Muhammad. Yet Al-Bukhari tells us that Muhammad died by poison. A Jewish woman killed him by poison. So that proves that he wasn't a prophet. He died by poison, even though God told him, I will protect you. Right? So either the Quran or Al-Bukhari is wrong. Yeah, you don't have another.
Okay, so you mentioned many things. So let me try to remember them and answer them in order. Just a note to Peter. The next thing that I had is actually not there because I did it before this broadcast. So I'm happy if you'd like to extend. Just a side note.
Well, one thing I would like to come to closing this up because we've gone over our usual hour and a half. Right. From what I've seen, I'd be more than happy to continue this in the second episode if that's okay with you guys. Yeah. As I said, I'm really happy that this is going down in a really cordial way, and there's even no raising of voices. So yeah. I love to have conversations like this, but we do have a few more questions from the side chat as well. So Ahmed,
would you like the one sentence response to the 5 or 6 points that Sohel?
Yeah, you can respond to Sohel, and then we'll go to a few more questions from the chat, and then we'll wrap it up.
I'll just give it like a couple of sentences per person. So the first thing, why this is not happening, why this kind of dialogue is not happening today, is not permissible today in so-called Arabic or Islamic countries. This is not a measure. You can look, if this was kind of dialogue was happening in the time of the Prophet, see that it was happening. It is happening in the Qur'an itself. The Qur'an is directly talking and directly arguing. Do not be the Qur'an, and even recording their argument. And you can look at the golden age of Islam when the Khulafa, the caliphs, in their own court brought Jewish scholars, brought Christian scholars, and brought people who did not believe at all. And they did this, what we are doing, they did debate. Imam al-Shafi'i and others are known to have those debates, people who did not believe that God existed altogether. So the Islamic tradition is about encouraging this kind of debate, really given two things. Number one, that it is a respectable debate like we are having now. We're not, you have questions. I believe that these questions are sincere, and I'm responding, and you're listening. All right. It's not like we're calling each other names or calling disrespectful to the Quran in an unjustified way, or I'm respect to your person or to your disbelief justified way. So there are criteria. So somebody can, for example, say that he doesn't like the American Constitution, but it is not acceptable that, for example, he would burn it up in front.
I'm okay with burning it, the Constitution.
There is a difference. The second thing that you mentioned is why in Arabic? Why in any other language? The Quran specifically responds to this Arabic argument and says, أعجمي وعربي. Is it a matter of being in Arabic or in another language? The Quran or the Torah or the Gospel or Psalms or the Hindu scripture will be sent down in the language of the Prophet that is delivering it. And if you would like to see how much people spoke Arabic, look when people were under the Islamic caliphate and they were speaking Arabic beside their language. You cannot judge Islam in its weakest time. Now, the English community is governing the world because of technology. So this small island, Britain, okay, that speaks English, where less than maybe 0.5% of the world, or maybe an insignificant amount of people spoke English at a point of time, now maybe more than half of the human race speaks English. So this is an essential matter. The next is said, Wallahu ya'asimuka minan nas. It is a matter of opinion that the Prophet died in poison. I don't think that the Prophet died in poison. There is clear indication that he felt pain. He felt pains while dying in a place where he was struck in a battle. And maybe the poison had an effect, but he died because he died. And there is, you are using Islamic narrations and the Islamic hadiths or the Islamic opinions. So under the Islamic opinion, you have to take it as a whole. Before the Prophet died, there is a clear hadith that Archangel Gabriel came to him, Jibreel, and he told him that you have two choices. You can live and have the whole world, and you can go back to Allah, and chose to go back to Allah. And then he went to his sickness and he died. And the Quran said that he will die. Why did the Prophet not know the future? The Quran specifically say that the Prophet does not know the Prophet in countless hadith say, I don't know the future. Islam was very, very, very mindful and very careful about not giving the Prophet divine quality. The Prophet is not omniscient. The Prophet is not omnipotent. The Prophet is not the Son of God.
So
the Prophet is not divine.
He's so human that we are ready to kill people just for a cartoon about Muhammad. I mean, he's divine, basically, in Islam. Muhammad is divine.
So the attitudes of people do not constitute the jurisprudence of any specific system. If somebody is willing to kill someone because he insults his country's family, it doesn't mean that the law of the country says that if somebody in the country, these are completely two different.
Okay. I have to step in because if we keep just
finish. So I will.
Sure, yeah. Another.
I thought you're finished, but go ahead. Yeah, finish your sentence and then we'll go to questions.
I just wanted to say that each one of the topics that Sohel has raised and can have a conversation on its own. And there is a big difference why somebody does not believe and why somebody believes. I think it is very important in any conversation to listen well to the argument parent to listen well also to the counter. So my closing is thank you for hosting this, Peter,
You're
and
welcome.
maybe send this tape.
I'd
Thank you,
I'd
Ahmed,
love
for
to
being
do
so nice.
Yeah.
I'd love to do a follow up. Mubarak, you had something.
I was just gonna point that we could go on this discussion for hours and hours,
Yeah.
and it's very interesting and very live. But I need to eat sometime today,
Yeah,
and I have to take my dogs out sometime today too. So
yeah.
we'll need to get to some of the questions here. I'm trying to look.
Yeah, so
I'm
you
trying to
look for
go.
one.
Yeah.
I've got one from very early on, and it's one that I wanted to ask myself, but didn't want to interrupt. And that's one that Geo Sam had. At the start, you were talking about orphan women. So, what is an orphan woman? What were you talking about for people who do not know this?
Okay, so Sohail mentioned a verse where there is specific advice to custodians. So the verse does not say orphan woman. The verse says give. It says exactly this. I was actually explaining it when we branched to something else. It says وإن خفتم ألا تقسطوا في اليتامى, and if you fear not to be just to orphans, فانكحوا ما طاب لكم من النساء. So marry whomever you of women. What it says, you have an orphan under your custody. Do not come and plead being innocent to the society that you are marrying, that you are proposing to marry her after she becomes mature. Because what you, if you want to marry somebody else and give her money. Because in the verses after that, it sets criteria to when an orphan should receive his money from his custodian. Number one, he should reach puberty. And number two, beyond puberty, he should be tested for being a sane and responsible person. So a boy or a girl who have been under the custody of a custodian will go beyond puberty and can be married. So you guys, the custodians, do not play the trick of offering the orphan young ladies under your custody to marry them before you give them their money. Give them their money and marry somebody. This is what the verse is.
Okay, Mubarak, you got a next question?
Yes. It says here that it's asking about Jesus, a Jew, and the claim that he is a Muslim. And I would probably extend that even to the claims that all the prophets mentioned in the Quran that they were Muslim. What does that mean? Or how do you consider them being Muslim, yet Islam didn't exist as we know it today?
Okay, so the word Muslim means somebody who submits. This is the linguistic meaning of the word, okay? Just like the word Jew, actually, when, for example, when Israel wanted to put it in their constitution that Israel is a Jewish nation, they said, well, the word Jew is somebody who believes linguistically. There was such an argument. So the word Muslim means somebody who submits to God's will. So under this general, every single prophet and every single believer, every single prophet was a Muslim. So Allah in the Quran gives designation of Muslim to so many of the prophet, and generally to everybody who submits will to God. So this definitely applies to Jesus, definitely applies to Moses, definitely applies to Abraham, definitely applies to every believer who takes this attitude. Because you go to heaven, you go to paradise, you are accepted in God's presence in the afterlife. Not just because you say I believe, not just because you say I am a Muslim, but because behave, which means that you accept Islam and you accept to behave in the way God wants to behave. So for example, in this ayah, you do not say I'm a Muslim and you eat up in your tummy the money of those whom you are their custodian under false pretense. So this is the meaning. It does not mean that Jesus was following the Quran. It does not mean this. Actually, the Quran makes specific statement that for each of you, he's speaking to the whole of mankind, لِكُلِّ مِنْكُمْ جَعَلْنَا شِرْعَةً وَمِنْهَاجًا. Each of you, we have given shir'ah. Shir'ah is like sharia, is like law. And minhaj is like way. فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ. So race upon making good deeds. So he has given the Jews a way for fasting that is different from the way he has given to Muslims. He has given to Jews the Sabbath. He has given to Muslims the Jum'ah. You should not work on the Sabbath, and Muslims should not work at the time of the Jum'ah prayer. There are differences in the law, but Jews are supposed to submit to their law, Muslims are supposed to submit to their law, and it's part of the submission that when a Sikh prophet sent, that prejudice does not stop you following the latest message. So when Jews receive Jesus, they should accept. When the world, Muhammad, peace be upon him, Jesus be upon him, etc., they should
That's a
accept.
contradiction.
Yeah. All right.
That's
So
a
this is my answer.
contradiction. Yeah, because according to the same Quran, he allows for a difference, but then the Quran itself says, "قاتلوا الذين أشركوا من أهل الكتاب." Okay, how like the Quran itself adds the people of the book sometimes to the mushrikeen, the polytheists. So, as I said before, Quran is so made that you can use it anyway. Like you can interpret it any way you want, any way you like. It's like plastic, you know. You shape it the way you want, and that's my problem with the Quran. It's interpretable in different ways. Yes.
Okay.
I will
Well,
answering this question because I have to answer the questions of the audience, but I can answer next discussion.
yeah,
Sure.
I do want to keep it a little bit short so we can get all of the questions in. Mubarak, do you have a next one?
There's a question says, isn't Homer's The Iliad and the Odyssey kind of written like the Quran? Those books are amazing and seem to rhyme well. That's the section of the comment of the question. So can it be defined the same way? So is it because I know Ahmed claimed that let me see, pop the comment up here.
Oral tradition.
Yeah, the oral tradition is it's divine and rhythmic, and language is amazing. So
Which book did they refer to? I did not hear the name of the book. Sorry.
the Iliad and the Odyssey, Homer's Iliad and the Odyssey.
Yeah, so those books are not intended to be books that are sent to human beings to follow guidance, to be laws for their lives. Their author wrote them as a legend. They are a legend, but the Quran is sent as a book of revelation, a divine revelation that should serve as a way.
Quran is a legend, bro. Quran is a legend.
So it is recorded in the Quran that some people who do not believe in the Quran say that it has legends. So I have no comment. It's already recorded. You just prove that it is saying the right thing about what is going to be said about it. So fine. The issue about the Quran, even when it tells a story, is that we understand a certain meaning behind the story that relates to the way of living, that is accepting God's revelation and God's law and life in a way.
Okay, next one is one I was hoping that we could get a question for Sohel as well, because obviously Ahmed is going to get the most questions. But we do have one for Sohel from Richard Madsen. He says, this mistake you just made is a conflation of the literary work and the practitioners of that work. This is fundamental. So this went back to a remark.
Which mistake?
I'm not entirely sure. As I said, this is almost 20 minutes ago. So we need to keep our answers short just because of this, because otherwise the questions are going to be impossible.
The commentator should have said like what verse or what text he's referring to.
Yeah, we'll give him time. Maybe he can put that in. He did put in another question as well. He says, is there a difference between the reader of the text and the text itself? Or how is what any religious person does relevant to the validity of their religious text?
Yeah, that question for me?
Yeah, that's a question for you.
Okay, okay. That's how I see the problem of the text and the reader. Is that, okay, the text is seriously important. And I can give you an example. In Palestine, for example, there is a culture of resistance against Israel. But the way you see how the two communities resist the Israeli policies shows you how text is important. But for example, a Christian would go on striking, maybe he will go even like use some stones, like tossing some stones, nothing more. But a Muslim will be ready even to go and blow himself as a suicide bomber. So there is a difference. The text has an effect. The Quran says clearly that God bought from Muslims themselves and to give them the heaven so they just go and kill and get killed. So it teaches fighting, it teaches hate. The Torah is the same, I know. But the Jewish people so far, they don't have the temple, so they don't practice the Sharia, the Jewish law, the Talmudic law. They don't practice it as a legal in a matter of state. But Islam is different. Islam, it should be practiced everywhere. So Muslims, when they get religious, anywhere they go, they will tell you we should stone the adulterer, for example. I'm completely against it. I think it's barbaric. It's anti-human, and that's why whether it's Jewish or Islamic, I see the text as a real problem. Yeah, it's not about the reader; it's about the text.
If I may add to that, because we did have a comment that I did want to highlight from the African humanist, and she said a 10-year-old boy was recently sentenced to 3 years in jail for blasphemy against Islam in Nigeria. I think it's a pretty well-known case. Several people have offered to take the boy's place. I was one of them. I responded to it that I would gladly take his place and serve the 3 years in jail. The boy was released recently, so sadly that is still a thing in society, that things like that happen and worse. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next question. That's a
Can I make a little comment about that?
Sure.
Yeah, so number one, in Islamic jurisprudence, people who are under the age of puberty cannot be tried for blasphemy, okay? Cannot be tried for major felony. Those people are youngsters and be taught. So I'm an Islamic scholar of jurisprudence should...
So an adult person should go to jail for blasphemy?
There is also in different schools of jurisprudence, what is the attitude to that?
So which one is Islam? Okay, just one moment. Which one is Islam? If there are different opinions, even in some of the fundamental issues, which one is okay? Yeah. Which one is God's law?
I also might have this discussed in another thing, but the punishment for apostasy in Islam is not a central issue, and the punishment for
but Abu Bakr did kill thousands of people for
no.
Guys, I love the conversation, but let's keep it short and to the point of the question.
This is a comment about Nigeria, comment about the question about the person and scripture. So, for example, the U.S. Constitution and the Constitution of every country will include incorporating an army. And armies fight for countries, and every country will venerate and will respect veterans and people who
that's
have died.
Different. No, bro, that's different. Here in America, if I curse the best veteran, I'm not going to jail. I will tell an F word. Okay, I will use an. Yeah, but okay, just one moment. I will use an F word even to George Washington, and so in Islam you are not free in giving an opinion. Yeah, like if you give an opinion opposing the Quran text, they can even put you to death by saying you are a zindiq, like a heretic. So I mean, if you are making a new Islam, that's another issue. Yeah, another matter.
I'm not a matter of apostasy at all. I am referring to what you have mentioned about the ayat that tell people that they would die for Islam, etc. So I'm making a parallel that each country creates an army and encourages people to sacrifice themselves for their country. So this is not something that is unique to Islam or to any system. Any system would incorporate, especially a system that has a state, and Islam had a state for 1400 years, and this state had an army, and this army was venerated and respected. People who sacrificed
and it was awful.
Were respected. It was not. This is a historical discussion I have. It does not mean that within the history of each and every country and each and every religion, atrocities might have been committed under false pretense, and this is just human nature. I just want to keep it short, so I stopped.
Okay, Mubarak, do you have another question lined up?
I really don't.
You don't? I have.
Do you have another
one? No problem.
Okay, go ahead.
I have one. Another one from Beach Price. She said, if Allah wrote it, why didn't he say the sun doesn't set, the earth turns, and the sun shines on the other side? It's night for you and day for others.
I didn't really understand the question. Can you repeat it again?
she said if Allah wrote the Quran or inspired the Quran for Muhammad to write down, why didn't he say the sun doesn't set, the earth turns, and the sun shines on the other side? It's night for you and day for the others.
Okay, I'll give a 2-minute response to that.
Yeah,
Number one,
keep
the
it
Quran
as
is
short as possible. So because I really want to wrap it up.
Yeah, number one, the Quran is not a book of science. It's not here to tell us the laws of physics and not to tell us the laws of mathematics, all of it. The important thing is that you cannot find a contradiction with scientific fact. So the Quran does not advocate a flat earth. I can have discussion with anybody who would like to discuss the scientific authenticity of the Quran. It does not advocate a flat earth. It has statements that can be very easily interpreted to advocate a globe. It does say that celestial bodies have orbits, etc. And it does have statements about night and day that are very easy. Makes the night and the day come after each other in a spherical way. Yukawwir, like Korah, like ball. Okay? So this is a big discussion. There isn't a single scientific contradiction between a scientific fact and an unequivocal ayah of the Quran. This I can grant. I'm happy to challenge anybody about that.
Okay, so subsequent to this question, she also asked, could Allah have made the Quran any clearer?
Yeah, Allah in the Quran says that the Quran is clear. He says that. And he says that it is easy. But he also says something else. He says that the Quran has two types of ayat, two types of verse. One that is muhkam, that can be interpreted in a single way. And it's unique. It's very clear. Okay? And another one that is mutashabih, means it can be interpreted in different ways. And there are very profound reasons for this, including that simple people will have the simple meanings, and that people living in the desert will have meanings that relate to the environment, and people in the 20th century who have understood things about the cosmos can also find those meanings unfolding into more profound. Okay, so this is also a completely big discussion.
Okay, I'm going to be cheeky. I'm going to be cheeky and say that was a no. So
here's a question for you, Ahmed. You just said that the question says the book got the science wrong. You said that the book got the science wrong, but you like it for the science of it. How could you say that? You said the Quran is not scientific book, but you said,
to be specific, he said it wasn't a science book, but science lines up with the Quran. Is that
with the Quran? Okay.
Yeah. So the Quran does not claim anywhere that is science. It is a book of guidance that has scientific implications sometimes, and they come in a specific context. Yeah.
Sometimes it gets it wrong.
I'm sorry?
I said sometimes it gets it wrong. We could go into the origin of the seminal fluid, which the Quran gets wrong.
I claim that this is completely not present in the Quran, including the matter of the seminal.
Okay.
I would say it's there. But let's go for the next question. It comes from Randolph, and he says the Quran claims that fresh water and salty water can never mix. And 2553. This is a scientific claim that is wrong. How does Ahmed reconcile this?
The Quran does not say that.
A comment.
Yeah.
I could pull the ayah and put it in the.
Yeah. So it does not say salt water and sweet water never mix. So there is no word never. Okay. It says that there are a few ayahs. So which that talk about the same context. So which ayah did he say? I cannot see the comment.
I'll bring it.
Yeah.
Al-Furqan 2553.
So 20. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So referring to 23. It doesn't say anything about this. Can you be sure?
53.
53. Okay.
2553.
So it says this. وهو الذي مرج البحرين هذا عذب فرات وهذا ملح أجاج وجعل بين برزخا. It says he has mixed the two seas. This is sweet and this is salty. This is so sweet and this is so salty. And he made a barzakh between them. And a barzakh is a place of transition. وحجرا محجورا, and a separation. So you do not find that your river, you will not find that, Mississippi, has turned salty because it connects to the ocean at one end. You do not find that the river Nile, because it connects to the Mediterranean, has turned salty. And he says that there is a barzakh between, there is an area of transition. And in other places, it talks about not just water and salt water, but any two seas. And the audience can go and check on the internet about the places where seas and oceans meet, and places where oceans of different salinity meet, and they can see how it is really amazing that at the surface you will see that even the colors of the rivers and seas, or the different seas that meet, or the sea and the ocean that meet, maintain their color, and the salinity at each side is different, and that there is an abrupt change. There is actually a fictitious separation between them, and this is because of a specific physical property that relates to water as salty solutions in water specifically. And this can be something that we can also address in scientific discussion. But anybody who would Google this or look at YouTube at videos that look at surfaces of separation between different water of different salinity will really think that this is one of the ayat of the Qur'an that the Muslims consider scientific miracle.
Okay, so I really want to wrap it up, so I want to go to the last question that we're going to pitch in, and even though it was for Sohel, I think it would be good to ask this question from both of you, and that's going to be wrapping it up for at least for today. As I said, I'd be more than happy to do a follow-up on this. And if you, another thing, people have asked in the chat where they can find both of you. So if you want to stick around after we close up the show and provide me with all necessary links, I will put those into the description of the video so people can find you online. So last question, that is one from Richard Madsen. And he said it was a question for Sohel, but I'd like to ask both of you. If it is true that the Quran can be interpreted in any way by a practitioner, and in any way a practitioner likes, then how can you say the Quran is being well represented by you? So Sohel, since the question was for you, you go first, please.
I don't know if I exactly understand what he...
Okay, if the Quran can be interpreted in any way by a practitioner, then how can you say that you interpret it correctly? That's
okay. Yeah, I mean the Quran is made this way. It represents itself as a kitab of rhetoric eloquence. It's similar to poetry because it's full of tashbih. I don't know, like what English words to use right now. Little bit. It uses many of the how I can say, like poetic attributes. Yeah, like it has the main attributes of poetry. It has stanza. It has music. It has even in one verse, God said that there are 8 angels carrying God's throne, and he chose the word 8 just to fit with the stanza. It's not like because there are 8 angels carrying the throne. It's just because the stanza is aniya, like e and ta. So kamaniya, 8 come to fit the stanza. So the book itself was made in a way to fit how the jurors need to use it. It's useful, especially for tyrants. They can use it any way they want. That's why you see 56 Islamic countries, none of them democratic, none of them. Even Turkey, which was a democracy, is falling under the Islamic backwardness right now. That's my answer.
okay. Sohel, thanks for that. Ahmed, you want to chime in on the same question?
Yeah, sure. So it's a good question. And actually, I have more or less responded to that in his comments. So the Quran says that the Quran is 2 types of ayat, 2 types of verses. One that is muhkam. هو الذي أنزل إليك الكتاب منه آيات محكمات هن الكتاب وأخر متشابه. He is the one who has brought down to you the book, of which there are ayat which are muhkamat, which means that they have a single clear meaning, and others that are mutashabihat, which means that they can be interpreted to different meaning. So this is a property of the Quran, and I have explained why. However, it is very important to note what he said about the ayat muhkam. منه آيات محكمات هن الكتاب, of which are ayat that are muhkamat, and they are the is can be used as mother and can be used as head, the most important thing. So the most critical ayat of the Quran are muhkamat. So when Allah is talking about if God is one or two or three, it's very clear it's one. If the Prophet is a human being or divine, it's very clear he's a human being. What is that prayer is an obligation, that zakat, paying alms, obligation, etc., etc., etc. The core of the Quran is providing guidance for you in your life is muhkam. And other things that maybe will unfold with time, or that are maybe having a reason or the other, that are about issues that are outside human intellect or outside the capacity, like describing attributes of heaven or attributes of God, or will have interpretations. And the Quran says it is this way intentionally, and there is wisdom behind it. And the wisdom behind it can be worth of a completely separate conversation. So a proper practitioner of Islam, when he interpreting an ayah that is mutashabiha, should say at the end, and Allah knows best. If this was a conversation about my interpretation for something, an implication of the Quran, I will say this is my opinion. I'm offering you my opinion. But if it's something of clear guidance for life, typically somebody who would look at it with different meanings will be biased.
Okay. Well, that
use you for something. Just show an image on the screen.
Yeah, that will be the last. that would be the last thing, because we really need to close it down, because
sure.
we've gone over 2.5. We're coming up to 2.5 hours, where we usually just go an hour and a half.
So,
but I've been enjoying this, so it's not a big problem.
I'll show this very fast because it really wanted to me, so I just wanted to show it. Yeah, here it is. So I told people that they might as well. Can you see it? Yeah. So you can see the screen now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you see what's on it?
Yeah.
So this is not even an Islamic channel. So this is an image of two kinds of water meeting and the separation between them. It's
I have to. I have to.
Me, so I like to share it.
I have to say,
Thank
because
you for giving me the opportunity.
That one I've seen before, and that is actually two different seas, so they're both salt water coming together.
Are you with me? Hello.
Yes. Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. As I said, I've seen that image before, and that is actually two different seas coming together. So both are salty water.
Hello. Do you hear me?
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Yes.
All right.
So I want to wrap it up. Oh, now we're getting an echo. Okay, I want to wrap it up. But we can't hear you, Ahmed. You muted the wrong microphone.
Yeah, I'm muted wrong.
Yeah. Okay. You hear me now?
Yeah, but we do have an echo.
Okay. So now we don't have that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It seems now both microphones are working again. So I want to really wrap it up for now. Thank you, both gentlemen, for having a great discussion. I want to thank Mubarak for being here and helping me out, trying to prevent a fight that didn't happen, luckily. So that's a good thing.
Thank you, Peter.
And
I mean, I'm very happy to have this.
You wanted us to say where people can find them?
Yes, what I will do is I will put we will, after the show, you can pitch me the links, and I will put all the links in the description, because that's going to be easier for people just going to the description and finding where they can find you. So yeah, thanks both of you, Sohel and Ahmed. We can do this again. Just keep in touch through email, and we can set up a new date. As I said, I would like to have both of you on a different show, talking to you about your beliefs of, or the lack thereof. That would be kind of interesting. So yeah, Mubarak. And now I got someone who wants to show their face once more. It's usually at the end of the show. Mubarak, thanks.
He knows the time.
Yeah, thanks for helping me out. It's always great to have you on and to chat with you. So thanks for the people in the side chat.
To be here.
Yeah, thanks to the people in the side chat for the great questions, and always appreciated. Please make sure, because we didn't have that on screen, to like the video and share it
Peter.
with others. And we see you all.
Thank you, Bart.
Okay, we'll see you all next time. Catch you all later. Bye bye.